Hello everyone, I am Leonica Fernandez. I am here to talk about the levels of conflict. Levels of conflict consist of interpersonal, intergroup, interorganizational, interpersonal. Internalized or interpersonal conflict occurs within an individual and can be further classified as frustration rule conflict and goal conflict. Frustration seems to stem from blockages in the attainment of goal rule. Rule conflict arises from the conflicting and ambiguous rule demands on the individual. Goal conflict is caused by the exclusion of the possibility of attaining one goal with the attainment of another goal. Interpersonal conflict occurs when you internally argue with yourself about something, such as buying a new pair of shoes, but you know you shouldn't spend enough money. That's interpersonal conflict. Interpersonal conflict. Three conflict forms: frustration, rule, goal conflict occur within the individual, influencing his physical and psychological health and adjustment with the environment. Under interpersonal conflict is approach conflict. Describes the situation where a person is trying to make a choice between two desirable options. Example: a student wishes to pursue a graduate degree and has been accepted into two graduate programs and needs to make a decision about which one to attend. Next is avoidance conflict. Refers to making a decision between two equally undesirable choices. A simple example of this could be making a decision between doing homework assignment or doing housework. Next is approach avoidance conflict. Approach means moving toward something. Avoidance means moving away from it. For example, if a person wants to eat a cake, it's a positive balance, but also wants to avoid gaining weight, it's negative balance. This constitutes an approach avoidance conflict that has to be solved. Next level of conflict. Interpersonal conflict occurs when two people have incompatible needs, goals, or approaches in their relationship. Communication breakdown is often an important source of interpersonal conflict, and learning communication skills is valuable in preventing in such difficulties. Under interpersonal conflict is substantive conflict. When the members of a group disagree about the scope of the group's tasks, ideas, or issues, it is called substantive conflict. For example, the student council's argument about whether to have a bake sale or a raffle is a substantive conflict. Next, emotional conflict is the presence of different and opposing emotions relating to a situation that has recently taken place or is in the process of being unfolded. For example, during the course of his work, a person might need to take some decisions that go against his values. While this gives him a profit at work, it would make him feel a sense of guilt. 2. Such situation would result in a conflict of emotions, happiness versus doubt and guilt. Next is substantive and emotional conflict. Is a combination of the two types cited above. For example, conflict can arise over questions about an individual performance differing views about the scope of task or assignment, disparate definition or acceptable quality, or the nature of a group goal. Next level of conflict. Intergroup conflict occurs between collections of people, such as ethnic or racial groups, department, or levels of decision making in the same organizational and union and management. For example, a person in a focus group might hijack another team's idea and shamelessly present it as his own to upper management or the boss. Stress from upper management or a team lead can also cause intergroup conflict that could produce positive or negative results, depending on the stressor. Last level of conflict, interorganizational. Conflict involves disputes between two or more organizations. For example, a situation of interorganizational conflict may be continuing battle between U.S. businesses and their global rivals, Ford versus Hyundai, or AT&T versus Verizon. To summarize it all, levels of conflict. First is interpersonal conflict. Under of it is approach conflict, avoidance conflict, and lastly, approach avoidance conflict. Next level of conflict is interpersonal. Under of it is emotional, substantive and emotional conflict. Third level of conflict is intergroup. Substantive and emotional conflict is part of intergroup. Last level of conflict is interorganizational, and that is the levels of conflict.